Hey, welcome. Today we're going on a pretty incredible journey tracing the 350-year story of one single American family. But here's the thing, their story isn't really just about them. In a way, it's the story of America itself, its conflicts, its growth, and its constant transformation. So before we really dive in, let me ask you something. How far back can you trace your own family tree? Can you name your great-grandparents? What about their parents? It gets tough, right? Well, the story we're about to tell goes back 12 generations, all the way to the very first person who stepped foot in America. All right, let's get into it. Our story kicks off way back in the 17th century. And you have to imagine what that was like, a time when crossing the Atlantic Ocean was this enormous, life-changing, and honestly terrifying gamble. So, meet our guy, Robert Seaver. It's 1634, and he makes the decision to board a ship called the Marianne and John and leave England behind forever. He was part of what we now call the Puritan Great Migration, thousands of people looking for religious freedom and a new beginning. He landed in the Massachusetts Bay Colony and made his home in the very Puritan town of Roxbury. And talk about not wasting any time. He arrives in this brand new world and marries his wife, Elizabeth Ballard, in the exact same year. A few years later, their first son, Shoebale, is born, and just like that, the Seaver family line has officially planted its roots in American soil. Now this really gives you a glimpse into the harsh reality of colonial life. I mean, it's pretty sobering. They had a big family, which was great. They even had twins. But then you look towards the bottom, 2 daughters, both named Hannah. The first died as a baby, so they named another daughter Hannah, and she also died as a child. It's a heartbreaking reminder of just how fragile life was back then. But the family persevered, and they started to build a life. Robert's oldest son, Shoebale, became a wheelwright. Now, that might not sound like a huge deal to us, but back then, it was absolutely essential. In a world with no cars or trucks, the person making the wheels was literally keeping the entire economy rolling. Okay, let's jump forward to the next chapter. We're heading into the 18th century now, and America is a place of major conflict and westward expansion. And, you guessed it, the Seavers are going to be right in the thick of it. So the next generation, another Robert Seaver, starts the family's first big move west. He leaves the settled coastal towns and heads for the frontier, a place called Westminster, Massachusetts. And he's a soldier, too, serving in King George's War. We're starting to see a pattern emerge, a real legacy of military service. And that legacy of service just gets more and more intense. This quote is about Robert's son, Norman. And just look at that date, April 19th, 1775. That's the Battle of Lexington and Concord. As a sergeant answering the Lexington alarm, Norman Seaver was there for the very first shots of the American Revolution. Just incredible. And it didn't stop with him. This is a true, father-like-son situation. Just a few weeks after his dad, Norman, marched in response to the Lexington alarm, his son Benjamin, who was only 18 years old, enlisted in the Continental Army. This idea of commitment and service was clearly becoming a powerful family tradition. All right, time for another big jump forward into the 19th century. America is going through this massive, seismic shift, the Industrial Revolution. And we can see this huge societal change played out perfectly in the lives of the Seaver family. See, for nearly 200 years, the Seavers had been what you'd call yeoman farmers. That was their identity. They were independent landowners who worked their own soil. It was the American ideal at the time. But that entire world was about to change. Forever. And Isaac Seaver is the man who really personifies this change. He's like the bridge between the old agricultural world and the new industrial one. He's a blacksmith, a classic trade, but he's making tools for an increasingly mechanized world. Then, after serving in the Civil War, he makes a huge decision. He moves the family from the farm town of Westminster to the factory town of Leominster. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. You can see the whole evolution right here. It starts with Joseph, the farmer. Then we have Isaac, the blacksmith. His son Frank ends up working in a factory, in a comb shop. And then his son, Frederick, becomes the factory superintendent, the guy in charge. In just 4 generations, they went from tilling the land to running the machines. So as we roll into the 20th century, the pace of change just explodes. The family's story is now going to be shaped by global wars and a kind of mobility that will finally take them all the way across the American continent. This is Frederick, the guy who really completed the family's transition into the industrial age. He didn't just work in a factory, he rose through the ranks to run it. He became a leader in Leominster's plastics industry, which was a cutting-edge, high-tech field at the time. The Seavers were now fully part of America's industrial engine. His son, Frederick Jr., takes things to a whole new level. He gets an education at an Ivy League school, Dartmouth College. And when war comes again, he continues that centuries-old family tradition of military service, joining the Navy during World War II and serving on a destroyer in the Pacific. And this is a huge moment. In 1940, Fred Jr. gets in a car and drives from Massachusetts all the way to San Diego, California. Just think about that. His ancestor Robert crossed the Atlantic Ocean to put down roots on the East Coast. 300 years later, Fred crosses the entire continent, finally completing the westward journey his family started centuries before. So you might be thinking, how do we know all of this? How was this incredible 350-year story pieced together? Well, the whole story comes full circle with the next man in the line, the one who decided to turn around and connect all the dots. This is Randy Seaver, and his career is just another fascinating step in the family's journey, from farmer to blacksmith to factory worker, and now to an aerospace engineer, a guy working on cutting-edge technology. In 1988, he started a passion project, researching his family history, and it was his meticulous work that uncovered this entire epic story. So it all comes down to this number, 12. 12 generations, a direct line from a Puritan farmer on a wooden ship in 1634, through revolutions and world wars, from the farm to the factory, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, all the way to an engineer who helped build the modern world. The journey of the Seaver family is really a microcosm of the entire American experience. Randy Seaver's dedication to looking back gave him this incredible gift of his own history. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What amazing journey, what forgotten history is just waiting to be discovered in your own family story?